It's happening, guys. It is actually happening. Ladies and gentlemen, Spice and Wolf is actually happening. We can actually see it. There's visuals, there's a trailer, there's news, there's a studio. We got so much Spice and Wolf news today, and words cannot express how happy I am, because this is kind of one of those series that honestly never thought was going to happen. I never thought this series was going to come back. I just thought it was going to be left to be dead forever and have this adaptation that was never finished. Now, sadly, of all the news that we got today, the only news that we didn't really get is this going to be a full adaptation? Or are they just going to start over and let it drop off at some point, just like the first one did? That's still up in the air. Now, I do have hope for that, based on this happening. But yes, let's get into this news. Let's get into this news. First of all, there's a trailer. You should be watching the trailer. If you have not watched the trailer yet, you should go watch the trailer. The trailer, I don't really think has any sort of spoilers for those that have not read it or watched the original season. It's just the meeting between the two of them, Holo and Lawrence. But it's really good. It looks good. There's a few things I'll add in here in a minute. I'll talk about the whole trailer itself in a minute. But yes, the first bit of news here is that, yes, Spice and Wolf is coming. It's going to be 2024. I assume probably fall, because my prediction was this was like really early announcement. Even the writer said it was announced too early. Maybe it's going to be late fall, but again, the trailer sort of shows quite a bit, which indicates that they have quite a bit animated already, but sometimes they'll make just specifically certain scenes for a trailer, and the show itself is just kind of long out. Some really exciting news. Yes, Kraft Lawrence's and Holo's original seiyus are going to be working on this. So we have Jun Fukuyama and we have Ami Koshimizu, which is great. When I watched the trailer, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's her voice. And then I hear his voice, I'm like, yep, that's his voice. Great seiyus. I am so happy to have them back, especially Holo's voice, because she just has such a unique style for Holo. Holo stands out very uniquely. Now here's where we start to get into a lot of the questionable aspects of this announcement. This is where we get in the area where I'm not even 100% sure I'm too happy. Studio Passione is going to be working on it. I'm not a massive fan of Passione. This is probably the only thing in here that I'm a little bit worried about. They have had some good series. Interspecies Reviewers, despite the content itself, had some good animation in there when it needed it. Miracle-chan was a really fantastic adaptation. I thought that series was so great. Higurashi Go and Sotsu were okay. Renai Flops and Yuri Is My Job is the most recent ones, were okay. It's not a standout studio, but it's not a terrible studio. It's kind of in that middle, maybe middle to low area, which honestly is a good studio if you think about it, because that's typically a studio that, as long as it's got a good production team kind of working over the top of it, somebody to sort of keep things in line and provide it some good budget, it could turn out to be a really good show. I'm always open to every single studio having that time when they finally stand out from the crowd and say, here's our banger. This is the one, we finally got all of what we need to work on something, and finally we made that one show that's going to make us stand out. So I'm not against Passione, but I'm not super excited. My hopes and dreams of maybe Bind working on it was just a dream. I had no expectations of that, but I kind of had a hope. Now, something that sort of bumps it up a little bit for a lot of people, and this is probably the reason why it went to Studio Passione. The original director of the last adaptation is going to be a part of this, Takeo Takahashi. Now, he is the chief director. He might not be the person directly involved with the whole project. He is a director of the studio itself, so I don't know how involved he's actually going to be. The actual director listed is Sanpei Hijiri, and that's somebody that I don't have too much of hope for. He's worked on Yuri Is My Job, Wasted Day of High School Girls, and did assistant work for Roko Brave of Six Flowers. This isn't a guy that's been around. And while I don't really have any directorial issues with any of those shows, it doesn't also scream, I do amazing work. So we have a studio that I'm very wishy-washy on, and involvement with a director that's not really stand out. And to be fair, I don't think that Takeo Takahashi, the original director of the last adaptation, is some sort of godsend either. His only real standouts is Citrus, Roko Brave of Six Flowers, and Mayu, which Mayu and Spice and Wolf were good, and I don't necessarily blame Takeo for what happened with the first adaptation and how they skipped an entire volume. But maybe I'm setting my expectations too high. Now, one staff member announcement that is exciting is Kevin Pinkin. And dang if you can hear it. Kevin Pinkin will be doing the music for this series, and yes, the guy is a genius. Made in Abyss, Shield Hero, Under the Dog. This guy does incredible music. In a lot of cases, music that really does get you into the show. Throwing vocals in and everything. This guy's good. The only way that you can make it any better than that is saying that Sawano Hiroyuki's working on it. And I don't want Sawano Hiroyuki working on it because that dude he's a little bit too loud. He's a little bit too energetic. You need to have a more subtle touch when it comes to Spice and Wolf. Now, with all that stuff out of the way, again, let's talk about the trailer itself. First of all, it looked beautiful. There's a couple points in there that has me a little concerned, and that is the use of CGI. Very briefly, you see CGI used for when they have the Harvest Festival happening at the very beginning of the story. They show that whole scene where Lawrence is coming into town, everybody's having the Harvest Festival, you have a lot of people gathered around, and yeah, they use CGI for a lot of the people for the faraway shots. That, I don't mind. With large crowds, that's happened. Not that I say that it's okay to happen, it's just it happens. My concern with the CGI with the trailer is around Lawrence riding on the carriage. To be perfectly clear, Spice and Wolf has a lot of riding around on carriages, and so if we're already using CGI for a horse and a carriage, it does concern me. Now, hopefully they can not rely on it too much, give closer angles, closer shots, don't have too many faraway shots, and it might actually not stand out as much. But I do have a little bit of concern because I'm already seeing that there, and it doesn't look great. It doesn't look bad, don't get me wrong, it doesn't look terrible, it just doesn't look great. Putting that aside, everything else looked very beautiful. I loved Holo, I love Lawrence, all that stuff looks really fantastic. We're already seeing a couple shots. I think the first trade they have, we're seeing those shots already. It all looks good. The backdrops, all that kind of stuff looks fantastic. Now, one point of contingency that a lot of people might be having right now is Holo's design. Yes, Holo's design looks very to the style of Passione. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I do really actually like that style. I think it's very vibrant, stands out, it pops. But yes, it's not my Holo, as some people would say. It's not the first anime adaptation's Holo. But keep in mind, it's a lot more closer to the original light novel art than the original anime adaptation. The original anime adaptation had a very much so a style of its time, very sharp curves and everything. Whereas if you look at the light novel, it looks a lot more rounded. And here's the other aspect that a lot of people are going to be questioning is, why are her ears so small? Which I personally did as well. I'm like, wait, yeah, because it's hard not to disconnect yourself from the original anime adaptation and stick with the original source material. The original source material, yes. Additionally, her ears are pretty small. So that is one of those kind of mixed bags that a lot of people have. Is like, why does this look so different? Well, because you're looking at the character designs that were done for the last anime adaptation. It's not necessarily... I never felt, when I actually went and started buying the light novel series, I never felt the last anime adaptation was close to that style. Yes, there's like the chin and stuff is a lot more similar to that, but the character designs were drastically changed in the last anime adaptation. And again, this one actually is technically closer to the original style of the light novels. So I don't think that's the reason they chose to do all this, don't get me wrong. I think they chose to do this design to match what the studio does. And that's sort of the difficulty that we face a lot when we know what the source material looks like and then we see the adaptation. Is the design drastically changes for a lot of studios because the studio itself has a style. And it often sometimes will have a character designer within their group that will try to make it fit within that style because that's what their animators are used to drawing all the time. It's like what I said with the whole vending machine isekai. This idea that, man, that doesn't match the original style. That's because the studio itself is going to have to draw it a bunch, and they're not going to try to keep to that style. Similar to a Tomei game, Life is Tough for Mobs. Drastically different than the actual source material, which really sucked for that case. So my whole point here is that, yes, it's different. No, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. I think she looks beautiful, and I really do get a kick out of it, and hearing Holo's original Seiyu's voice come out of it. It's just... no matter how you cut it, no matter how it looks, the moment you hear her voice, you're like, yes, it's Holo. I hear her. She's there. That's Holo. But no, with all that said, again, the last thread here, the one thing that unfortunately we did not get out of all of this news, which pretty much fills in all the gaps that I personally needed kind of filling, is why didn't they announce if it was going to be a full adaptation or not? The positive here is that it's going to be starting from the beginning again. I think if they just wanted to do a quick season and just be done with it, they probably could have easily done just, here's the next season. But they decided to restart. Day 1, Lawrence coming back to the town, Harvest Festival's going on, meets Holo. This is a new adaptation. They're tweeting about this and everything. This has been confirmed. And I think that specific reason makes me hopeful that they are planning on doing a full adaptation. I think the only reason they haven't said for sure yet is they're still going to gauge interest. They're going to make this anime, they're going to make the first core, they're going to see how popular it is, then they'll go from there. I think this is going to be one of those cases where it's going to be gauged based on popularity. If this shows profits, we'll keep making it. If we do the first season and we're not selling more merch, we're not selling other things outside of here, we're not getting enough money back from it, our streaming licensing isn't getting us enough money, all that stuff, if it doesn't make profits, they'll cut it off. They're not committing, I don't think yet. Since the light novel series is technically done, the original Spice and Wolf story is technically done, they're still releasing every now and then, it's not like they're selling light novels. So in the end, it's going to be what sells outside of it, which yes, Spice and Wolf is a very profitable franchise. I mean, they're still making Holo figures every month, it seems like. They're still selling other properties, other content, Parchment and Wolf. It only takes one company saying, I want to get a piece of that pie. I'll give you investment to make an anime, but I want to make money from whatever figures and stuff that you sell based on that anime. And that's another reason why sometimes they'll change the art a little bit. Because it's going to be Holo of Passione's adaptation. And whoever produces it wants to make a cut of whatever they're going to sell from it. And again, if they make some profits, they're going to want to keep making more. Keep that hype up. But anyways, all that said, like I said, I'm just happy it's happening. Like I said before, I mean, honestly, just being happy that I know it's going to happen, even if I didn't know when it was going to happen. Now we know when. We see it. It's moving. I can hear Holo's voice again, which makes me just a massive smile on my face. Gosh, I cannot wait for it. It's a super exciting time to be an anime fan. It truly is. And I really, really hope, I do hope these guys do a good job of this. I really do hope, especially with Takeo Takahashi involved with it. I think he did get quite a bit of creds for his work with Spice and Wolf. So maybe he's going to keep things in order. Like, hey guys, don't mess up. And honestly, there is such a massive fandom that there is probably a bit of stress around that. Like, dudes, we can't screw this up because Spice and Wolf is huge. It's got a massive and a very passionate fandom. Otherwise, they wouldn't be making figures all the time. Unless it's just a small amount of people with way too much money on their hands, which is possible as well. It's like a gotcha whalers. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Are you super excited? What do you have concerns? Are you like, no, this is good. Everything here marks, every check mark is clicked. Or I don't care. I heard Holo's voice. I'm happy. Let me know. Additionally, if you're new to this channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I'll do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. If I'm still around by then, I'll definitely be covering this show for sure. Cannot wait. But yes, if you want to support this channel more and make sure that I do stick around. Sorry, that was dumb. Make sure to go down below. There's a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and membership button down below. Greatly appreciate it. Supports the channel. It means so much to me. And y'all take care.